All right, good morning, everyone. 47 minutes after 9 on this Wednesday. So I'm getting nice little sunshine at the moment, making for a pretty setup. That will be changing, though, looks like later on. But we have a lot to cover, as you guys are fully aware by now. Hope you guys are doing well. Wave meteorologist Brian Good. Welcome to Storm Talk. We'll be switching over to more of our alert day coverage as the week progresses here. As we're going to be tracking a very active setup. And it's not just about Friday, to be clear. There's multiple things at play over the next couple of days here. They're going to be a bit complex on timing as far as day and night threats. Certainly Friday stands out as the main one that we're going to be tracking by all means, but there will be others that will at least potentially take place before that. And I don't want you guys to be caught off guard by that. And then one of those rounds could be as early as in 12 hours from now. So here's what we're going to do. As always, we'll take this one step at a time. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. I'm hoping, though, that everything I'm about to explain will kind of fill in some of the wondering gaps. There's some questions I'm not going to be able to answer yet because some of that will require data from the day of to really fill in some of those gaps, as you guys are used to, right? So you are all here. Even Les Loves Snow is here. Hello, Les. Normally I only see you in the wintertime. Good to see you there. Let's see. Adam is here. 0.7 is what you got there, Adam, in your gauge in Bloomington. I had 1 inch of rain in 30 minutes last night. Those downpours, they had a kick to them, and we could easily get 4-inch totals in additional with these round of storms between now and Saturday morning. Up to 4 inches could easily fall, even a bit more. So flash flooding, while that doesn't get as much attractiveness, especially in severe weather watchers, it is still our leading cause of fatalities, especially in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, is flooding and flash flooding in particular. So it is a very dangerous element. We focus a lot on wind and hail and tornadoes. The flash flooding is our biggest killer that we've got. The second one really is heat in our area. Heat is also one of the bigger issues we face. So elements we don't, again, get a chance to talk a lot about and don't get as much attention, but they are the ones we need to really make sure we're not ignoring. So we'll cover that as well as we get to the next few days. You guys look like you're ready to go. All right. Let's dive in. Everyone take a deep breath. Do some kumbaya. There we go. We'll start with the look at the radar where we're at now, and that is showing still some of the last part of the showers there across Ohio. This is the backlash of the low pressure that I've said this many times, but it's worth mentioning. I mean, this is the same low pressure that was in Texas 4 to 5 days before Derby, and we're still talking about this thing. It's crazy. Very slow moving, but it's finally moving. So that's step one. Moving away from us. Should have already noticed a difference already outside. With it being further away on getting at least a sunnier start to the day. But we have another boundary, warm front, that will be the kicker to bring in the more summer vibe, even though it's a little humid out there now. But this front will really bring in the humid air. That arrives tonight. That's the reason why there is a storm chance tonight that we need to be aware of as well. But at least for the next few hours, majority of the area will have some decent dry time. If you need to run out and run some errands, there's not much we're expecting to really pop in the short term. I know those of you in Jennings County, Jefferson County, Indiana, Carroll, into Boone County and into Owen County, Kentucky, you're like, wait a minute, it's not exactly pretty out. I get it. You're on the back side of the low, so keep that in mind, but it is moving slowly away from you. You'll start to see some improvements, but it will be slow. All right, the warm front is our next focal point. There it is. Now into Jonesboro, Arkansas, heading north and east. It's waiting for our low to move out of the way so it can arrive. So the speed of this low will really determine how fast this warm front will move into the area. But in general, we are thinking about an 8 to midnight, 8 to 2, something like that window. This warm front will be slicing through. Now, warm fronts can carry severe risk in our area, especially this time of the year. One thing on our side, there's actually a couple of things. One big thing on our side is that it will be arriving at the loss of heating of the day. In other words, the sun will be setting. So the cape that we're gaining here today will start to fade away. So the thunderstorms go from a low base. The clouds develop low in the sky, not too far above the tree line. and they'll be rising as the overnight wears on. So as thunderstorm potential grows with that warm front, some of your elements, especially when it comes to a tornado element and even flash flooding, those will get chopped off the list a bit more, but you'll still have to deal with hail and some damaging winds. And I'm going to go through all the threats coming up in a second on each one of these potentials coming our way. But this will be the one tonight. Not a huge ordeal, not even enough yet for an alert day setup, but it could. It's trending toward that. So I don't want you guys to, again, be caught off guard by this warm front tonight, especially if we're going to be out after 8 p.m. tonight, work second shift, third shift. Be aware that will be something that will be approaching. Well, I'll show you this on an hour-by-hour setup as well. As far as the setup on the severe risk from the Storm Prediction Center, not long ago, about an hour ago, they decided to add a marginal risk for this. Now, I think you can argue it could go all the way up a little bit more into Indiana to cover the entire boundary as it moves southwest and northeast. I get it, though, that it is a little more rooted on the bases being a little lower in Kentucky versus Indiana, just the way everything is tilted here. So I get why it's there. But I think you could argue, though, that everyone would face a low end warning potential tonight as this warm front passes by. Okay, so that's tonight's threats. Then we gear up for obviously the one that's coming in phases tomorrow. First will be the warm front tonight. Then here comes the low that'll kind of squeeze into the area. Tomorrow doesn't come all the way through, and that's important. This is a cold front that moves our way, threatens us basically, stares us down right there in our face, and then stops. That allows then for Friday's event to take place. If we had this thing being progressive enough, which originally did look to be sort of the case there for a while, that this would be so aggressive, it would move all the way through and keep the severe threat all the way down in Tennessee for Friday, and we would be in the clear. But the trend is to not allow this front to move in. So it gets just close enough to us to be a problem, but it doesn't come all the way through to allow our minds to ease on Friday. So that's the reason why there's kind of multiple threats here. It's because of this. It's its fault right there. It just does not want to come all the way through until the wee hours of your Saturday morning. So that will be our risk that will be approaching. As it does so, the risk is already out for tomorrow. It's an enhanced risk right on the curl of the low itself into near the Twin Cities and parts of the UP of Michigan all the way to about Chicagoland. Notice the curve to it. Again, that's the cold front, but it's got such a sharp backward C shape here of the curve that's a strong indicator the front is going to slow down. Along the I-64 corridor is where to likely put the brakes on, if not just north of that, between I-64 and I-70. It looks to be the spot it will begin to slow down. The Storm Prediction Center has hinted that they may extend this enhanced risk more into the curl to get it all the way down to, say, near Paducah, Carbondale, Illinois, near Evansville. That's possible. For now, I don't see that would include us, but if you are in Jasper and into Lawrence County, it may. But we'll find out. The next update will be at about 1:30 today. So we'll see if they decide to make that change or not. I can see why the argument's there, but I also can see why it's not. Not to get too far ahead, as I always do, but I'll explain some of the threats on this. Let me zoom in a little more, and then we'll break this down, as the Storm Prediction Center allows categories for days 1 through 3, right? So we're able to break down this threat here. So looking at this for Thursday, for tomorrow, slight risk, roughly along and north of the Ohio River, but everyone has got a severe risk of some sort. So there's not any one location that's free and clear and you can completely relax. It's just the threats could be higher where the air is going to be a little less capped late in the day. We've talked about the cap before, this lid that is on the atmosphere, just like you're boiling, say, some tea on the stove. And if you were to put the lid on, or boiling anything really, you put the lid on it, you are able to keep the steam from going crazy in front of your range, right? And that is what a lot of us cooks try to avoid, when all that steam going crazy. But as soon as you take that lid off to check on it and see how things are going, what happens? As soon as you take that lid off, there goes the steam, just flies up, hopefully not in your face, but just flies straight up in a rapid pace, right? The little burst is what we talk about when it comes to the cap breaking or busting. It's the same concept. There is a lid, and the steam just builds and builds and builds and builds. And many times in the summer, it can do that every single day. But if there is nothing to trigger it, then it just builds all that steam, and then nothing happens. and then the air cools at sunset and it's over. And then we just do it all again the next day. That happens 80% of the time around here in the summer. But there are times when you have something that does allow for that lid to come off. And when that happens, that's when we really need to pay attention. And the front is an obvious trigger that we need to watch. But again, it's slowing down. So because it does its stalling action, that's why you don't see the slight risk that encompasses everybody. There is a limit because it'll stop at some point. Could this go again to enhanced risk? It's possible. We'll see what they do. I don't want you guys to get too caught up in the categories now, getting this close to any event, but you're going to ask. I think it would probably draw on something like this and west, north and west of that. We'll see it 130. Breaking it down, your tornado potential on this obviously is going to be there, but just because the cap busting, you're going to have supercell structures. They may line up into a line, but they will be individual cells in a line based on the sounding. So that's not a good thing because you can still run a tornado threat on this. And the bases should be low enough to bring that tornado potential at bay or keep it at bay for now, but still on the table. Your straight line wind potential, more downburst winds. If they can organize, one or two cells collide briefly, that can happen. But I think your biggest issue is going to be the hail. And that's why it's hatched for areas just north and west of Louisville for very large hail potential. In fact, some hailstones could easily get larger, much larger potentially than a golf ball size, which is damaging hail to livestock, to your home, your property, your car. If you have a garage, you may just want to be on the safe side and make sure to keep that thing in the garage really the next few days if you can. But if you have no choice, I feel for you. I'm kind of in the same boat. So just pay attention to how this is going to play out. And this is only if the storms can pop. If that lid holds, we don't have to worry about this, guys. We'll be okay for that round. But if that lid breaks, the realization of the threats will come to light rapidly. I mean, it is explosive development when this happens. So it is very difficult to pinpoint exact times. You just got to be ready to react a lot faster than we would in a squall line that's approaching from Missouri, that kind of a scenario. This is a little different. These happen really quick when they blow up on the radar, and it only takes a few scans sometimes and they get warnings out on them. So just be ready to act on this scenario, especially when the late Thursday night looks to be more of a prone time period, but I don't want to rule out Thursday afternoon. There is still some potential. It just depends on how close that front gets and if it's enough to cause a ripple effect down the line and bust the cap. Okay. Friday severe risk. It's slight for now. I don't see how that's going to hold. I think this will be probably drawn a little further north. There will likely be some kind of an enhanced for most of the area, and could even get close to moderate. I think the category is going to really start to ramp up, but there's a lot of questions on what happens Thursday night. If there's still some leftover clouds in the area and scattered showers kind of lingering Friday morning, well, yeah, that would help taper down the extreme nature of what some of the data is showing for Friday evening, and then slight risk would verify. So I get why they haven't upgraded this yet. For you model watchers out there, SPC watchers, you are always questioning this. You're looking at so many weather sites. There's a million weather sites out there now. A lot of young meteorological minds out there with their own weather pages and stuff. I get that. But just be prepared for an upgrade. But I just don't want you guys to focus on that. Just focus on what I'm about to tell you on the threats and be prepared. And it's as simple as that. You don't want to base your day fully on categories. Okay, so we'll come back around to that. Let me start now with the short term on Futurecast. And I don't have an hour by hour set up on a chart for you all right now, only because I think it's going to keep changing. So I don't want to give you a lot of bad info. I think this is going to be easier. Show you on the map, pick out where you're at in relation. Here is Louisville here, right in the middle of the map. There's the Ohio River. Pick out in relation where you're at and kind of just go along with me here. And the clock's right in the banner right there, top left. And we'll just take it one step at a time. We'll start with today's warm front scenario as that moves in. Again, we're going to have the next few hours quiet. I'm not too worried about that. We get into this evening, the warm front will start to develop quite a few cumulus clouds, perhaps even before it gets to Litchfield. You should see some darkening skies as we get close to sunset in your area. At this point, we've built up our heating or our cape for the day, our fuel, the steam. but we're heading into sunset. It'll start to fade down, but will the front get here fast enough to still take advantage of what's still left in the area? And I think that's certainly possible. And here's the end result. You get these cells. Now, just about every single one of these, I have a feeling, based on what I've looked at, will rotate. Pretty natural for a supercell anyway to rotate. Doesn't always mean tornado. But our bases will begin to rise. I'm hoping that's the case this evening. We need them to get up. The higher, the better we can go to eliminate at least the tornado threat. Unfortunately, you end up with more of a hail threat and still some damaging winds. But this first round, we need to watch. Here's a snapshot of 10 p.m., give or take an hour on the speed of the front. It will have gaps in the line. So that's why the rain chance is not going to be 100% tonight. It may be an average of 40, maybe up to 60%. We'll see how the afternoon data trends. But we can't go 100% because of the structure of these cells that allows for gaps. You may fit perfectly in one of these little gaps and you have nothing to worry about tonight. But you could also be in one of the spots that's directly in the path. The model is going to change every time I show this. It will likely put the storm cluster in a different county. So that's why it's tough to pinpoint, say Bardstown, yes, and Fort Knox, yes, and maybe Dogwood, no. It's not something that we can give yes or no's on yet. Just know that you'll be in that zone, and let's hope that you're in the gap. But that will pass through roughly, I'll give it as early as 8 p.m., but I think it will be close to the 11 o'clock news tonight. It'll pass on by. Slows down just a tad as we get into the overnight. So that's why the window goes to about 2 a.m. For that thunderstorm threat. At this point, majority of them will certainly have high bases at 2 o'clock in the morning. So if there's going to be any TOR threat, it will be just the very beginning stages of it. Otherwise, it'll be hail and strong winds. Those are race off to north and east. And this is where things get a little wonky on Thursday itself, because there are signs that we could still get some scattered showers and even some thunderstorms that will be in this flow as we try to build up the cap here. But they'll be trapped in a certain layer where the cap is, basically, is where that moisture will be trapped at. So I'm not sold yet that a couple of things. One, I'm not sold entirely yet this is going to be a truly intense day on storms during the day on Thursday, but I'm also not sold on 90 degrees because of this. I think we may get close, and boy, it's going to feel like it with humidity outside. But I think it is going to be a mostly cloudy type of day, so that may keep some sort of a ease to our minds and hopefully preventing from the cap from busting there. We get into Thursday afternoon. Here we go. It's got the cells that try. You don't want to see this. They're trying to bust the cap, and they're kind of all over the place. These actually rolled in from southern Illinois, where the curl of that front went down. So they're rolling in from that and heading eastbound. This model, and this is the HER model in particular, the last run it had, I think they had them here. So it doesn't know yet where they would be placed, and that's fair. Just be on guard. Really, at any point as we get into Thursday afternoon, Thursday night, we'll be monitoring this carefully to see how this will evolve. Then we get into Friday morning. This is where we get the clouds and the showers around that linger a bit, but we just don't know yet if they'll disappear in enough time or thin out for the heating to take place to set us up for the main event on Friday. I think right now it's pretty likely we will. So speaking of that, I'm going to show you a regional view of the Futurecast. Before I move on, real quick, is everyone clear on tonight into Thursday's time period? Just tonight and Thursday, the warm front, and then the cape and cap type of setup that builds during the day. Type 3 for good. Type 3 for good. All right. Heather, what time roughly tomorrow? It's going to be random. It's going to be random, Heather, unfortunately. Just be on guard. If it's it's one of those things, I don't want you to get completely off guard. If it's a sunny setup and say we're 87 degrees, the heat index say is 90, it's sunny outside. That's not necessarily a good thing either. It just means that for now you're okay, but it also means quite a bit of steam is building up. If we're cloudy outside, or even better yet, some light rain is falling, that's a good sign, actually, that will help taper the meanness this atmosphere's got tomorrow. It'll calm it down a bit to where we don't have to worry about as much of a severe threat. Yes, I know it's not as pretty, but trust me, you don't want this cap to break tomorrow. So I think there's some wiggle room here, and it may be a split of both worlds. We'll see. Okay, so let's get into the regional view. This will be for the main event. So as we head into Thursday, here's kind of recap a bit. You can see the cap building. This is our in-house model, the graph model. Here's where it starts to develop some of these cells. I will say the graph has eased back a bit on the ability to bust the cap. It's not as aggressive because it does have quite a bit of cloud cover too, but it's not as aggressive with it, but it certainly does show how quickly they pop. And look at how much, I mean, it has one that moved right into Louisville at 7:30 tomorrow. I mean, the HER is not too far off, right? But look how it just eat the cap right there, or the cape away rapidly into Louisville, and one little donut hole for the city of Louisville. The opposite of snow lovers' demise in the wintertime. We'll see how that will evolve. It's such a low-end potential that storms will pop, but if they pop, they can be violent. So that's why we got to watch it. All right, so it looks like the front moves in, right? It's going to move in. It's going to push down the Cape. We get some of these thunderstorms that could be our nocturnal round later Thursday night. We don't want to see this either. Some of these could be severe. Certainly, they would be elevated. So again, the bases would be higher. So these are mainly hailers we're looking at for the pre-dawn hours of your Friday. And here's the front, again, trying to slice through, but watch what happens. Look to your west, right here into Missouri. This is where the front itself, because of another ripple that is moving in, with the front not passing all the way through, it will grab a hold of the front basically and lift it back to the north again. That slight little jog back to the north is going to bring the instability straight back up to I-70. I think it's going to be a little further north than what this model has. I think it's going to be a little closer to I-70. Now we get the actual ripple of wind energy that's going to ride along this front. And this is the one that by far is going to be, there's not much of a cap. There's a lot of fuel for Friday, but there's not much of a cap here. So we don't have as much of that protection. We don't have much of that lid protection there on Friday. So these will have no problem in firing up. No problem at all. And honestly, I think Friday could be a better candidate for a 90-degree day than tomorrow will be. It just depends on how much shower activity is around early in the day, because we're going to start off very warm Friday. I mean, we'll be in the 70s, mid-70s to start things off Friday morning. It is going to be warm and muggy. It'll remind you of July. So we don't have much ground to make, and we'll be already close to 90. So it'll only take a few hours of sun to do that. Anyway, this is the main line. This is speeding up, not shocked by that. It's trying to aim into the late afternoon now instead of late Friday night. So because of that, it's telling me that this is trying to organize into a MCS, mesoscale convective system, with a widespread damaging wind scenario that is going to absolutely just rake across the Ohio River Valley. Yes, you can get some tornado potential here, but this is going to be certainly more straight line wind. Now look at this Boeing segment, aiming to about 5 to 6 p.m. that it just absolutely slams right into the heart of wave country. Plenty of fuel to work with, especially that time of day. The front isn't entirely through, even at this point. See how the Cape goes away into Illinois, but this is the front here at the very backside of Illinois. So because of that, there actually could be a late night round. I wouldn't rule it out. They would then move in around 11 o'clock. For our southern counties, you could get 2 rounds. You could get a 1-2 punch. Hopefully the second round will be much more of just a wind threat, not as intense of a wind threat, and it will depend on how touched you are by the first round. But I'm hoping the second one is not as intense. It shouldn't be, but still could still cause some warnings even to late Friday night. And then finally, by Saturday morning, we'll be done with this. And if this faster trend continues, we may be able to clear the alert day altogether for Saturday morning and enjoy some sort of a quiet weekend, thank goodness. All right, so that's the setup on tonight, tomorrow into Friday. Multiple waves. You can see the challenges we got here. I'm going to stop it there on the Futurecast side. Now, let me just recap how the threats are going to break down. And this is where I think you guys really need to pay attention. For tonight's round, what are the threats? Because the base is going up, I'm not as high on the tornado count here. I think it's going to be a low end risk. Your damage wind threats will be elevated, and I think your hail threat. And this scenario for hail would be more quarter size potential, not very, very large, but quarter size, which is large enough. That's enough for a warning. That threat is a bit more elevated with this warm front. And the flooding, I'm not as concerned about because they should be progressive. So tonight's threats, elevating, but not overly high. Now let me show you tomorrow's threats. This is mainly for, especially if the cap can bust as we head into that Thursday evening window. Tornado potential is there. Wind threat is certainly there. The hail threat by far is the lead of all of them. And this is where you can get very large damaging hail. Really got to watch this hail potential setup. And the flooding threat, I did increase a bit more because they may move a tad slower with it being on the tail end of the front. So you could get in with some higher rainfall amounts, could exceed 2 to 3 inches. Now we get into Fridays. This is Friday's event. I'm going to go with the elevated potential on tornadoes. I'm going to go as far right as I can on the wind potential right now. I think some of these warnings on Friday could get 70, 80 mile per hour wind tags on the warnings. Very intense winds and a widespread type of setup. This can cause more problems than tornadoes can in our area, because it can just knock down tree limbs and power lines in a much more widespread fashion, and therefore it's harder on power crews to restore it, because instead of just 1 or 2 particular spots in a county being impacted, say by a tornado, you end up with multiple power stations and power points that are taken out, and it's a lot harder to get everything restored. So we got to prepare for that wind threat. The signal continues to grow for that. Hail threat will be elevated, especially early on with it, but you don't get as ton of large hail with this scenario with an MCS as you would individual cells. And the flooding potential, because of the 1-2 punch, worries me. That especially central and southern Kentucky could easily exceed 4 inches of rain out of this. Whew. Okay. See, I'm always full of good news. Y'all think I have bad news all the time. It's all good news. Cameron, can you explain to those who don't know how the cap or warm air allot blocks warm air from rising to prevent storms rise in strength? Yes, I sure can, Cameron. Simply put, or I'll try to be simple. As you guys know, if you were to get into a balloon and go up, it will get cooler or colder as you go up. And that's just the natural way the atmosphere goes until you get into the stratosphere, then it reverses again. But you cool as you go up. That's naturally what happens in the atmosphere. And thunderstorms especially love that. They love that imbalance. They strive. That's why you see those puffy cumulus clouds. They actually grow right in the horizon. You look out the window. If you keep looking at them, you can almost see them growing sometimes. But even if you look away for a second and then you look back again, you can already tell a difference in it. They are growing up. And if you fly a plane through that, and you've been on a plane, I'm sure, going through some of those cumulus clouds, the belly of the plane gets lifted up. You'll feel it. It takes your stomach away. It's an updraft that is happening. Thunderstorms love that. That imbalance is what they feed on. But when you have a cap, the air cools briefly, but then you get to roughly about 5,000 feet and it starts to warm again. So then the clouds are excited. Thunderstorms pop on the radar in the sky. You see the cumulus clouds form, but then they can't grow anymore. They can't get any higher in the sky because they hit a layer of warm air. And that's like a roadmap to them, or a roadblock. And they can't grow into the big cumulonimbus that become the big thunderstorms. So that's the saving grace. But if you get enough of a push, enough of a shovel, a cold front, something that will grab that cloud and just force it through that wall no matter what, then it's back into its lovely territory again of colder air, and then it goes crazy. And then the thunderstorms rapidly explode at that point. So a cap, again, will just limit that. And you'll tell. Look at the cumulus clouds tomorrow. If they look like they're getting larger and larger by the minute, then that should be a signal to you the cap's probably breaking. If you see them being puffy outside, but they are not exactly getting large, I mean, they're puffy, don't get me wrong, but they're not growing rapidly, that should tell you the cap is winning. And simply looking at the sky can just tell you that. You don't need weather balloons to see that. So good question, Cameron. I hope I explained it the best I can there. Let's see. Sean, never got the notification from the app. I see it from the weather app and news app on my phone. So social media side, I don't always get notified on. So that's a whole other ball game. The app's the only one we control. So thank you for letting me know. We'll let me know if you all witness a similar problem. Megan, would Friday be similar to a derecho? That derecho coming up. A derecho, just so you guys know, I know it sounds scary just even saying it. A derecho is a similar MCS high wind event, but roughly can go 130 to 150 to 200 miles, multiple states, last a long time. But it has to be at a continuous level on intensity, and the warnings and verified wind reports along this path, not just warnings that are for 70 miles per hour, but if there are verified reports of that for that entire duration, then the Weather Service will look back at the case, and later, just like a tornado damage scenario, it would be a couple of days later before we would know they would then declare that, yes, that was a derecho. You can't really forecast those, and you don't really call it that as they're happening because you don't know if you're getting verified high damage reports. So derecho is more of a term in a textbook you look to describe an event after it's happened, not something you would forecast. I think what you guys need to be aware in a forecast sense is that high winds are going to be the concern. Doesn't matter what its name is. You can call it a breeze, a strong breeze if you want. It doesn't matter. Just know the potential there for strong winds of 70 to 80 miles per hour can accompany this kind of a setup. And they will move very fast. That's one saving grace, is that you don't have to wait long. When this thing gets powered up to our west and starts to move in, it won't take long. You're going to have very long, these severe thunderstorm warning polygons are going to be very long when they're issued. They may cover 3 counties at a time. Weather Service has got their job cut out for them because they're going to have to stay on it, constantly issuing these warnings, and the expiration times may be a fairly lengthy amount of time to give you as much of a heads up for a while before you even see the storm arrive. So I'm hoping they get the watches and all that out of the way early tomorrow or on Friday, especially, so they don't have to worry about that happening during the event. But I don't want you to get caught up on watches. Just know potential right now on what it can do and leave it at that. Okay. Yeah, derechos are a pain. They're a pain. I've dealt with the ratios. Well, Bowling Green, I remember theirs that we had years ago, and obviously we've had one. The most common track for them usually is northern Indiana, Chicago, tracking into Ohio, and then West Virginia. That's usually the path you see a derecho. That ring of fire almost turned to them. That's usually what can keep them going for a long time like that. It's really hard for them to go a long time otherwise. Yeah, I didn't do the CSU analogs today. I'm not going to go with the AI stuff right now. I think we're too close to the event, guys. You guys, I mean, it's hatched. It's severe. It hasn't changed. The threats are there. Now we need to start making sure you guys are ready, and make sure that you're prepared. And certainly if you have Friday night or afternoon plans, even that you kind of check and see where we're at on this. And we're going to talk about this tomorrow. We'll see. Maybe things will change tomorrow. I doubt they will, but they may. And that'll be our saving grace. So let me show you the 10-day, and I got to run because I've yapped a long time. But yesterday was so short, I want to be able to spend a little bit more time with you today. It is worth mentioning, yes, for next week. Not quite ready to go and alert yet for this. The question I got for next week is, it looks nocturnal. It looks like Tuesday night through about 6 a.m. Wednesday, and maybe a small chance of redevelopment Wednesday afternoon. That's the storyline I'm seeing now for Tuesday and Wednesday. That doesn't lead to high confidence right now in severe weather and that kind of a setup. It's a common one that we have. So, yeah, I'll be watching it. We'll see if that continues to be the trend or not. But right now, we'll hold off on that. I'll give another day worth of data and see, but don't be surprised if we have alert days for next week. Okay, I got to run. Stay safe, everyone. Enjoy the sunshine for the next few hours, and just be weather aware for those storms that move in for this evening. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you all. Stay safe. I'll see you on the flip side.